All right, the stream is up, I think. Test. Yeah, so fast. I just started. I have this like multi-stream thing where it merges the chat, and sometimes it doesn't like detect that I started streaming, so I always do a little test to make sure. Because I had a stream where I was just going and I wasn't getting any comments, and then I realized people were talking and I just couldn't see it this whole time. So I try to avoid that happening. Yeah, but today I have a lot of work to do, actually. Refactoring work, unfortunately. Because I've realized I don't like some of the organizational decisions I made when I was doing some of the stuff here. So I'm probably going to break a lot of code and then have to fix it in this process, but it should be fine. I feel like I'm just like working on chunks and water for weeks and weeks. And I'm like just slowly getting towards moving on. But every time I get closer, I realize I should change some stuff. Otherwise it's going to be a mess in the future. Yeah, pretty much. And just like general architectural things. So like, basically, the issue that I'm starting to realize might become a problem is that, so like, ultimately I want the game to have multiple worlds that can be loaded in at once. Because like in multiplayer specifically, players might not always be like in the same world. And like this is kind of like how Minecraft works, you know, some people can be in the nether, some people can be on the surface. So like I wanted that in from the beginning. So I sort of designed the world system to be like OOP, right? Where like you just have a world class and you just instantiate multiple of those and then you just loop over them all. Which is, I mean like that is the way of doing it, right? So like each world should just kind of be responsible for doing its own thing. And then you like build the game up based on, you know, like the world class. But I'm starting to realize, okay, well I realized this with the simulation system. So like I have this simulation system that just takes in chunks and then simulates them, but it doesn't actually like really care what a chunk is. It just like takes data, segments it by chunks, and then eventually spits it back out like into the actual chunk class or whatever instance. But the way I've designed all this is it's all based on pools. So like I have a fixed number of chunks that I just allocate memory at the start of the application. And then the pool system just like reuses chunks from that on demand. So that way I'm not like newing memory all the time. It's just like I always have this fixed number of chunks. I never have to worry about like null pointers or anything. It's just like I always know the memory's there. But I designed it so each world had its own like chunk pool. So you can see like chunks is a like member of world, and then chunks has its own like pool, and then a grid for keeping track of like where the chunks are in the world. But with the simulation system, I only want like one instance of the simulation running for the entire game, because again, the simulation doesn't actually care about worlds. It just cares about like moving water data with physics. So I've already done the abstraction. So I used to have the simulation in the world itself, and I've taken it out now. It's just like a global thing, the simulation, right? But I'm realizing that maybe the chunks should behave the same way, because it's easier to like think of a chunk as just some block of like just structure that holds block data and doesn't really care about the world. But the issue is I've written a lot of code that just assumes that chunks are a part of worlds, rather than like chunks are just given to worlds temporarily and then sort of freed. So I need to like change all the code. Like if I just go world chunks, like you can see I have a ton of code here that just makes this assumption that worlds have chunks. So I don't know if that ramble made any sense, but I'm starting to realize I don't like the overly object-oriented way of organizing things sometimes, because like my game will only ever have like this pool of chunks allocated ever, right? So like I don't need it to be part of a world. It's just like it's harder to reason about the lifetimes of things too once you like over design it with object-oriented type, I don't know, architecture. So I think I'm gonna change that now before I get too deep into this game, because otherwise that could be like a pain, a pain to change that in the future. So I'm gonna do that today, the chunks. And then I wanna do some stuff with the lighting as well, which will kind of break off from this work too, so. And the more I think about it, the more I think a lot of these other subsystems should behave the same way. Like the pathfinding might also just sort of exist as it's like the singleton sort of design pattern versus like OOP. I think that maybe that shouldn't be part of the world either. I just kind of made everything a part of the world because it just made sense to me at the beginning. But now that I add more stuff, I just see that that's probably not the right design. So yeah, I'm just gonna do it. But first, I can show off my cool new water dragging feature. How you can attract water to the mouse, which is really fun. Oh, and I also added explosions too, so I can press I and I get a little explosion. I'll have to show off the game now because it's going to be broken for like at least half an hour. Hopefully not longer than that. Well, half an hour is being generous. It might be like an hour. And honestly, this is probably some of the driest live stream content, but it keeps me focused because I don't actually want to do this, but we're gonna do it. So let's just move this out. Let's just do it. Nice. I don't know what's going on. I've tried to I reinstalled Windows recently on my computer like a month or so ago, and I tried to play Minecraft. Oh, I might dox myself with my login here. Never mind. I'm not gonna bother showing this off. I don't know how to log in, but it won't let me run Minecraft now. It's like it fails to install Minecraft. And I checked, it's not like a Windows Defender thing either, so I'm not really sure what's going on. I think my Windows installer just always corrupts itself. Okay, so let's move this and let's change all the references to this. Which actually isn't too much. Yeah, the other thing that inspired me is I'm starting to like seriously think about the architecture I'll need for multiplayer. And I like the idea of chunks just being like a single, just they have an ID and multiplayer will just like pass chunk IDs around. And I won't have to think about like, oh, what world does this chunk belong to? Because like it shouldn't matter. Let's see. So this should still work. Yeah, that is a good point. And like, Yeah, this is usually how I design stuff. Like, I'm a big fan of singletons and just global data in general. I know some people are kind of have like strong opinions one way or the other, but I like global data and singletons because just for me, it's easier to like reason about like the greater software itself. Yeah, I'm just the thing is, like, I'm always unsure which is like the best way of doing something. So it's like I end up writing a bunch of code and then realizing I don't like it. So I think I should just like stick to a method, but I think I'd prefer to stick with singletons. Okay, what was I doing? Okay, now everything breaks. We're gonna break it. We're gonna remove this and see what happens. So just delete that. And then this is gonna be completely broken. Delete this. Delete this. Delete that. Yeah. Yeah, I have a lot of like these helper functions too that kind of depend on this existing. It's like some of this stuff I want to keep in the world because like the other thing that I need to think about is like worlds can have different sizes. So like in order to get a chunk ID from like a coordinate, you need to account for the size of the world in order to like resolve that. Though I could maybe architect it so that's not a requirement. Maybe that's what I want to do. Okay, let's just run this. See, the good thing about a like a statically typed language is as soon as you do something like this, you just work through the error list, and then once you fix them all, everything will just work again. So let's see. I can't find that. Yeah. Yeah, Python and JavaScript are crazy. All right, so it's like now I have to reason about, so I just remove that from here, which means it kind of happens after. I'm gonna spend a lot of my time just staring at this without doing anything. Yeah. Yeah, the templates are, I love templates as like a concept, but the debug, yeah, the error messages and just like debugging them is impossible sometimes. Yeah, so I need like a separate class because I'm like, I need to like hybridize this. So like chunks is kind of a system, but you still have a chunk grid, which is a class, I guess, is how I can architect this. And a world will have a chunk grid, but it will not allocate from like its own pool. It'll allocate from a global pool, which is like how I want to do this. So we just copy all of this into here. So I guess in a sense, this is kind of the same thing, but I'm just taking out the memory allocation portion of this. Keep the iterator and actually, Yeah, I do this a lot. No, I didn't. I've written a lot of these just over time, so I kind of know the theory behind them. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. I'm currently breaking a bunch of code, so I apologize if I'm not talking much. There's a lot going on here. Hopefully this shouldn't take too long though. I just need to like fix what's I'm mostly just like taking part of this out of the system and putting into its own little system. I'm just like thinking what actually needs to go where. It's kind of tough. So I think that's fine. Yeah, like this is actually fine if it stays like that. Essentially all I care is that the memory allocations happen in like the global system rather than the per world system. And that chunk IDs are like not tied to a world specifically, and a world just has a collection of chunks that it can have at any given time. That way, if I have multiple worlds open, all the other systems that sort of rely on chunks don't need to also know about like what worlds are loaded, because it shouldn't matter. It's like chunks kind of behave identically across worlds. They just hold data, right? It's the idea. So what was I doing? Keep that. So I deleted some code, but I actually need this to come back. And then do I need to update this? What does the update function do? Does it even have an update function? Yeah, like here's an example of why this is important. Like this update function is basically a state machine for like the chunks. So the chunks have different state, and like the state determines what happens to a chunk at any given time. And the generation's like multi-threaded, so it's like important that chunks that are being accessed by the like background thread doing the generation aren't being written to at all during the main thread, like by the main thread. Otherwise you can have like a ton of issues with just like race conditions and stuff. So the state system is sort of strictly enforced. But like right now, each world was like responsible for its own state machine on the chunks, but there was only one generation thread. So you weren't even guaranteed that like the chunk states are happening, like the updates are happening like at the expected time. If that makes any sense. So this actually, like here I'm iterating over chunks and then trying to update them, but this should just maybe just be a direct loop, like a non-iterator loop. Oh yeah, this is fine. Yeah, it's kind of a complicated system. I'm still developing it. But like, so the object system isn't thread safe in my engine right now. So any blocks that have like an object tied to them, like think like animated grass or like, you know, like a chest or something, those can't be, the objects themselves cannot be generated, like instantiated by the generation thread. So there's like, the generation thread just purely just writes data to the grid, like what block ID is here. And then after that, there's like a main thread pass, which will like loop over the results of the generation thread and actually like do some of the main thread, like non-thread safe logic. Yeah, I don't need best viewers from streamboo.com. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. That solves that issue. I don't like this, actually. Okay, I think this is gonna take more than 30 minutes in hindsight. Shoot. Okay, let's see. Hey, how's it going? Okay. This needs to be removed. This needs to be removed. Nice. I don't know anything about Zig, actually, other than I've heard it. I've heard the name. Let's see. Okay, so we're getting closer, I think. But there's still a lot that needs to get done. Like here I'm like initializing the chunk pool, and each chunk has a world, but this should not actually have anything. Do I use the world at all here? It's like the world should only change when let's see. When the chunk gets like assigned to a world. Where is this class? Here it is. Yeah, when we allocate the chunk, then it gets allocate chunk. And this should take the world. Well, this shouldn't even take an ID. This is odd. Actually, that's fine. Yeah, that's cool. I do the same thing for my Windows. I just use the APIs directly, like windows.h and like X window for Linux. And Cocoa for Mac OS. All right, so let's see. Yeah, like this should be part of the world actually, this update. So yeah, okay, that makes sense. Sort, process, sort, update, reset. Okay, I think we're getting close now. I think I can answer that because I did the same thing. I can show that really quick. It's kind of interesting. I need to jump out of the project. So it's like, it actually isn't a lot of code. It's just kind of like nebulous code to figure out how to write. Like creating the window on like Windows operating system. My entire window code is about 500 lines. And most of this is like white space and comments. So if I like go to the init function, where is it? Yeah, here we go. Like the entire code for creating the window on Windows is just this long. It's on, I have the code in the up on the GitHub too, the engine, if you like actually want to look at it. I think the link's in the description on YouTube at least. You just look for like windows.cpp, and then like X11 is kind of the same thing. So this is Linux. So it's like you just use like the Linux. I use X window on Linux, like X11. And then Cocoa is like Mac OS. But yeah, SDL, like it does all of this for you. under the hood. Like if you like looked at the SDL source code, just like how it does Windows, it's literally doing the exact same thing. So like when I was working on this, like a good reference is just SDL. And theirs is way more robust than mine because they're like a public engine or library, I guess. Okay, so back to the chunks. I don't know if either of those are true. Is it smart or clean? That's up for debate. Sometimes I'm afraid to do these live streams because I have a few like unorthodox code styles. Especially like, I'm not a big fan of modern C++, like a lot of the features, just because I think it like really like overcomplicates code sometimes using all the crazy C++ features. And I always feel like someone who's like really into that is gonna join the stream and be like, well, what the hell are you writing? But I don't care that much. All right, I think, well, we have all the errors gone at the very least. All the obvious ones. So let's just run it. Maybe this will work first try. No, too good to be true. All right, what's the issue? A lot of them I see. Looks like just namespace things. Oh yeah, I see what happened. So this should be at the bottom. Yeah. I have a love-hate relationship with namespaces. I'm using them in the engine, obviously. You can see them everywhere. But I'm never sure if I actually like it or not. But I'm like so far down this rabbit hole now where I don't want to rewrite, like, because essentially it's just a stylistic choice, right? Like whether it's in the namespace or whether you just like prefix your function names with like chunk grid underscore or whatever, and then it's like that's essentially a namespace. I kind of like putting things in namespaces because I think just for my mind it helps me like sort of encapsulate behavior better. And like I have this thing, like I kind of broke this chunk stuff into a namespace one before it was a class, just like 30 minutes ago. And like since my chunks is like always going to be a singleton, I kind of like having singletons as like a namespace instead of a class, because that signals to me that this is just a global thing behind a name and there's only one of them. Whereas like if I see a class, I expect there to be multiple of them potentially. So like I like namespaces in classes for like just organizing ideas in my mind when I read code. But I go back and forth. It's an ever-evolving issue. Okay, so what was the issue? Namespaces. Chunks is not a class or a namespace name. Yeah, okay, so it's just because it was up there. Yeah, now I have a lot of just variables that I actually never declared. So like these, I think. Globals. Let's like put these up here somewhere. Oh yeah, I've seen the module stuff. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you like it. My general philosophy is I try to keep things like as simple as possible. Like that's the goal. But sometimes like things just become complex. And yeah, it's tough. It's kind of why I'm like writing everything from scratch too. Like I'm not using much from the standard library. It's like I'm creating my own window. It's because I'm just like maybe a little bit over obsessed with this concept of just like, I want everything to be self-contained and like exactly what I need. It's kind of like a fun challenge for myself, at least, writing stuff like this. All right, so let's see. That takes care of that. Priorities is not a member of chunk grade. So where is it seeing that? See, like, this is cool now. Like, I don't need to worry about the world anymore for this stuff. Like, previously the simulation had the loop that depended on some like temporary world variable, and I don't need that anymore, which is awesome because that keeps things simple. So I can just delete this. And then, oh, I maybe do need that still. Does this use the world? Yeah. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. I never know how like interesting any of this is. Like, I find this stuff interesting. Like, there's like other YouTubers I watch. Like, I'm a big fan of like John Blow and like Casey Moratori. Like, I just like their sort of style of making things. And there are like a lot of other people that kind of do similar work. Similar type stuff. So like, I think it's interesting, but like, how big is this subset of people? I don't know. I think there's value in it, at least. Especially like nowadays where, I mean, the whole like AI debate comes in and people are using like AI to program. Like, I kind of fear, like, I'm not a huge doomer about it, but I do kind of fear that people will like, I don't know, think less when they're programming if they're just relying on AI type stuff. So I think there's value in just like doing things sort of from scratch, even if it's not the best use of my time. Like, if I was looking at this strictly from like a time efficiency metric, then like I am not making a smart decision writing everything from scratch. But I don't know. That's just not fun if you think of it that way though. So okay, why am I passing in the world here? It's like, if I have one thing here that takes in a world and everything else doesn't, this just tells me that maybe I should think about this differently. Like, maybe I shouldn't be passing in the world here. Like, it's odd that it even requires that. I'm just gonna temporarily have it though. So I want to see the game compile again. It's like the goal. Yeah, let's do that for now. And what else? Ooh. Unable to retrieve call stack. So I seg faulted. Okay, great. We compiled, but I seg faulted immediately. So where'd we go wrong? Ah, yeah, here we go. I guess that's to be expected. I thought that would not happen though. So world is null pointer right now, I believe. Which one? I mean, if you're already writing stuff from like from scratch, like creating the window and just using Vulkan, like I haven't even implemented Vulkan yet, so you're definitely well on your way, I would say. Like most people aren't doing that. Okay, so what's the issue? Okay, I actually hit the assertion this time. Okay, let's see. I thought that would be true always. I have this assumption here that, let's see, am I always crashing the same spot? Yeah. So I had this assumption here that this would always tell me whether that's valid. So that's clearly not true. So are chunks not initialized? Oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Chunk init. When I release a chunk. There we go. Well, I see the game, but the world is not generating. Why would that happen? Just gonna make sure, sanity check this is actually doing something. A little printf debugging. Okay, that does something. Oops. And then the next test is the chunk system updating? Maybe I'm just not updating the chunk system. I am. I actually wrote my own build system, but ultimately it uses Ninja. So it like generates a Ninja build script, and then Ninja actually like does the compilation and the well, like the build caching, I guess. I don't use smart pointers because well, I guess two reasons. One, I'm not including anything from the standard library. So I'm kind of like writing very C-like in that way. And the second reason is that none of the memory I have actually, like I'm designing the game in the engine so that things aren't, memory is only allocated at like very specific points. Like I will allocate a big pool of memory and then dish out pointers like from that pool. So I only have one allocation that runs, or like occasionally the pool has to grow, like if I reach capacity or something. But smart pointers like save you from forgetting to free things essentially. That's a big topic actually. It's like constructors and allocations and smart pointers. Like Smart pointers exist to solve the problem. Yeah, smart pointers exist to solve the problem of constructors and destructors allocating and freeing memory, right? Because if you have constructors that allocate memory and destructors that free it, then you have to worry about like the lifetime of that thing, because like it isn't always obvious when the destructor actually gets called. Because like there's move semantics and you know, all of that stuff. So like smart pointers basically allow you to like reference count the pointer such that when nothing else refers to it anywhere, it just tracks it. Like that's what a smart pointer is. But I don't have that problem because I just allocate in like one spot, and pointers are just like pointers to memory. Yeah, it's like I use C++ features, which is why it's like written in C++. Like I do use templates. I use function overloading. I obviously use namespaces. I use classes just because I don't know. We're in C++, so like I'll use a class if the thing has if the struct has method functions, and I'll use a class. Yeah, I don't know. That's a big topic. But I think personally I just don't like allocating memory willy-nilly, because every time you do a memory allocation, like those can fail. It's not likely that those fail because like I don't know, like a memory allocation shouldn't fail, but one can fail, and that's like an error you have to handle. So like the fewer of those you do, the better. And I just like, I don't know, I just like having control, like exactly when that happens. So like this chunk system, I have this chunk pool thing as an example. So this is gonna be like a global, you know, singleton system that just starts when the game starts and ends when the game ends. So like in its init function, it allocates memory here for the pool. So it's just like allocating a chunk that's like a memory thing that's basically as big as like is needed for the chunks. And thinking about this more, I actually have things I want to change about this too, now that I look at this. Because right now I have it so like my pool is just a list of pointers, and then I allocate even more memory like right after this. Whereas my pool should just be a big block of memory that just fits everything I need. So I'm going to change that too. Okay, so what was the issue? Was this working now? No. Process request. It is calling though. Yeah. I'm not claiming that's like the right design. Yeah, heap fragmentation too. Like my object or entity system works the same way, where like the entity system just allocates just big contiguous like pool of memory, and then the entities kind of just get, you know, like just segmented in that pool. So it's like I basically is writing my own like custom allocator, I guess. And I know like Casey Muratori, he likes arenas as well, which is like a similar concept, but taken even more broadly, I guess. So yeah, I was just ranting about how I don't have to worry about like null pointers, and I just had a seg fault like 5 minutes ago. Okay, so what am I doing? I'm not getting chunks, it looks like. Or something isn't seeing the chunks, maybe. This isn't failing, is it? This is when I should really take out the debugger, but we're just gonna do this because it's fast. So that's not failing. I got rid of my nice little chunk debug messaging So now I need to like think about this. Okay. I am getting chunks. Oh, I do have chunks. I didn't even think to place a block. So I have chunks. Well, it's rendering them anyway. It's just everything that relies on that is not working. Oh, here's a chunk. We have one chunk here with okay, why is that happening? So I think I broke my iterator. I think that's what's happening. I broke my chunk iterator. If I had to guess, it's like the only logical conclusion. So what's wrong with the chunk iterator? This is another crazy C++ feature, is iterators. It's like they're cool, but sometimes maybe they're not cool. I mean, that should work. If chunk is less than pool and it's odd how that worked for just like one chunk. I think the iterator is what's busted though. All right, like how many of these do I actually draw? Yeah, I only get one chunk from this, apparently. And it's not even like the valid chunk. So like if I so I'm not initializing this correctly. Yeah, thanks for stopping by. Good chat. I'll probably be going for a while. So, see ya. Let's see. Yeah, so it does dish out all the chunks, and the pointer looks fine. So that definitely works. So each of those has a different ID. Actually, let me redo that. Just make sure it's dishing them out from the pool correctly as well. Yeah, it's a problem. I have the same thing. Or at least it takes me a little while to like remember what everything does. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of funny because like it wants to work. I get one chunk. Chunk ID 0 is the one. But like it does work. It's just not iterating correctly. Then this code is never running apparently. So I guess, did I never implement these equals thing? That works. Oh, I see. Obviously this isn't gonna work. I'm not even storing the world on this thing. Yeah, there we go. Okay, sweet. So that big refactor is working, which is nice. I mean, I believe it's working. I mean, the test is if I go to a different world, will I immediately segfault? I will. Of course I will. Now let's figure out why this is happening. Ooh. See, what is this? We have a lambda expression at chunk handle. Yeah, okay. Tough. So where is it actually trying to get that information? Yeah, so world here can be null now. Chunks. Chunk equals null pointer. Yeah, I guess I'm not like freeing these chunks from the system. Meaning if it's trying to access the world after it's been freed, then you're in for a sad day. So we need to add this in here. Nice. So I guess a quick check if world dot this is kind of a gross way of doing that, but this should work for now. Because okay, I'm going to save all of this work. Yeah. I only update that one. So like I have the version of it that I'm working on like sort of intermediately. And then like once it's in a sort of stable state again, I'll update the public version. Okay. So I think the issue is when I unload a world, I'm not like freeing any of its chunks. So it just sort of exists. So what do I do? Chunk out world. So it's like I should like unload chunks here as well, explicitly. Yeah, nice. Yeah, learning languages is tough. I tried to learn French for a little bit, and I got like, I can understand people speaking French mostly, but I can't I can't talk in it. Let's see. Okay, I think I know how I need to actually solve this. My frame rate actually improved with these changes. I was not expecting that. I wonder what optimization happened. I'm getting higher frame rate now after this refactor than I was before. Yeah, before I was getting like 900. I had like a really inefficient loop going on in the background, but that's interesting. Yeah, it's it's certainly a work in progress. I've been working on this fluid simulation for the past couple weeks. But I'm really trying to just like get the core systems like really well established, I guess, before I actually start working sort of more heavily on gameplay type content. So I'm kind of just doing some refactoring at the moment. Like there's some updating I need to do to the lighting soon as well, that I just want to get like out of the way. So now I realized I now need a state system for the world itself. Because I have some issues where I actually can't just, like when I call free on the world, like world free, I actually can't just free all the systems immediately, because some things like the chunks, they actually, the states might take multiple frames to complete because there's stuff happening like in the background on worker threads. So they need to be synchronized. So when I free, I need to make sure like all of the chunks that this world has get freed. Meaning it's like I might need to like wait a few frames before I can actually like properly clean up the world. So that's why I was getting an issue. Well, let's see, where did I just do that? Was that in the simulation? Yeah, like I have this check here, like if the world is initialized. But this is like a check I shouldn't have to do, because it should be assumed that any chunk that reaches this state and code has like a valid world at this point. So I need to remove this. And let's add the state system to the world. Initializing. Loaded, I guess, I don't know. Active. And then we have world state freeing. And this way we can sort of skip updates while we're in an idle state, I guess, like an intermediate state. So let's see. How do I want to do this? I'm sure there are flaws. So here when we call free, we actually are like we're like deferring the actual free here. Because that's important. So let's see. I do have an idea for the game. Yeah, I'm like working on both things at the same time right now because the engine is still pretty young. My general timeline for it though is I want to, and this is just speculative actually, because I'm still very early in the game development part of this, is I'm aiming for like release 1, like I guess version 1, to be about this time next year. So like I'm gonna give myself a full year to like make the game, and the first 6 months of this is just gonna be like all this sort of nitty gritty engine stuff. But as I get further along, I'll have to do less engine work and just more gameplay stuff. And yeah, I've thought a lot about what I want the game to be. It's just I need to focus on the systems in the beginning because it's like really important to get these right. At least like the fundamental stuff I want. Yeah. Okay, so we need to do a deferred free. Yeah, I'm thinking of doing both. So like all of it's written in C++ right now, and like I think most of it will be C++. But I'm starting to heavily lean towards the idea of adding support for Lua scripting, like especially for gameplay type stuff. It's just like I really do see the argument for doing Lua for that. So like the game itself is just sort of like an engine, right? And then Lua is like actually what drives all the gameplay stuff. It just talks to the engine. I don't know yet. I haven't thought about this enough. I don't know what LuaJIT is. I assume Lua just in time, so there must be some sort of... Let me look that up. Yeah, Lua just in time. This could be interesting. See, I don't know enough about this yet, so this is it's a big to do. Maybe a future stream I'll be tackling that. Because like I'm also thinking like people will probably want mod support, and mod support's a little tricky in like compiled game engines because you have to like essentially I'll have to expose some sort of API for the game in the game engine if people are going to be able to write mods for it. Because the alternative is I would just release the source code and people can just like compile it and literally just add it into the game. But this will probably be a game that I sell, so I don't know if I feel comfortable releasing like the game source code, at least right away. So I would probably want a scripting language, or like the alternative is people can like write like DLLs and I dynamically link to those, which is like a potentially viable way of doing mod support in the C++ game engine. But I think doing the scripting language would be a better path for that, or doing both. I guess I could like support dynamic link for like actual C++ code and then also support scripting. But at the same time, it's like I don't want to... I've seen a lot of indie developers like go really deep into like adding modding support, and then like their entire game has just been like them trying to get good mod support, and then nobody ends up actually playing the game, so nobody writes mods. So like I want to spend the most of my time actually just making the game, but it'd just be foolish to not think about mod support at all, because like obviously like Terraria, which is like the big comparison to this game would be Terraria, like they have a really rich mod support, so it's like people expect that with a game like this, so I kind of need to do it whether I want to or not. Okay, state system. Let's see. Yeah, like with the JSON thing. It's like one of the issues I have right now is that like all of my assets and stuff just sort of get baked into a single binary file by my build tool. So like I would need to also, I mean, that's sort of an easy fix. I can just have like my main game binary and then like the mod binary, and both just get loaded in at like the start of the game. And everything should just work. But I'll need to like think about that. Like, how do people actually add new sprites and stuff? Or like new sound effects. It's just interesting. Okay. Actually, I might think about this world unloading stuff later. I want to kind of get to the lighting update I wanted to do. Yeah. Yeah, like yeah, so that's basically what I have with my engine currently. Like if I look in the actual file here, I have a lot of these. Wow. So like basically what I do is like, I don't know if I can zoom this in. So like I have my executable, then I have this binary file. And this thing gets generated by my build tool. It just like includes all the textures and the fonts and sound effects and all of that. And then the game just loads this. And in the binary file, it has like a little table basically representing like this sound ID is at this offset into the binary file. And the game just loads resources from that. So yeah, I would just need to expand that to work for like content that people create. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I've been working on the fluid sim for the last couple weeks now. Kind of losing my mind. Yeah, there is 3D support. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so the engine does support 3D, not like anything crazy, but I have a 3D voxel game. Well, not a game, it's like a little demo. It's interesting. Yeah, my engine isn't like Unreal or something though, where it's like, oh yeah, this is a 3D renderer. It's like, to do 3D in my engine, you actually just have to like write all of the 3D stuff. Okay. Yeah, it's gonna have multiplayer. That's been a big challenge with the fluid simulation too, is designing it in a way where the fluid will work in multiplayer, because it's a very complicated problem actually. Because the fluid simulates on the graphics card, It's like simulated in a shader. And it's like there are many ways error can accumulate in like the motion of the fluid. Or I guess not error, just divergence. So like in multiplayer, even like small latency in like placing blocks in the path of moving liquid will cause like one client's water to not look like the other client. So I've put a lot of thought into how to mitigate those issues. I don't have multiplayer implemented yet though, so that's one of my next big like to-do items, because that's going to be a big deal. So the other reason I'm putting off some of the gameplay stuff right now is because I still need to do like multiplayer. But yeah, right now I'm gonna switch gears a little bit. Yeah, it is so it is so annoying writing multiplayer code and systems, because you like, yeah, I'm sure you know. It's worth it though, because you know multiplayer is really fun. It'd be awesome to like be able to play multiplayer while having like cool stuff like the fluid. But yeah, I'm gonna switch gears from the chunks for a bit, because the other thing I wanted to do today was update the way the lighting is being calculated. So basically, right now this water, this big ocean, it's like really bright down here, because the sunlight doesn't actually like see the water currently. And I could make the sunlight system like see the water, but the current way I have it implemented, I can't update it fast enough without just tanking the frame rate. So like right now, basically how this works is I have, let's see. Yeah, thanks for watching. Yeah. I've been streaming basically every Sunday, so yeah. Catch me next week too. But yeah, thanks for stopping by. It's fun. But yeah, anyway, so like basically the way the skylight works is it generates this like light mask, and right now it's like segmented in the chunks, so it's kind of hard to see what's going on, and it's small. But this is like all this white here is like skylight, and I generate this basically like light source mask for the world, or at least the visible chunks, on the CPU, and then I send this to the graphics card to actually do like the light propagation. And I update this mask basically anytime I like delete a block, or I like move to a new chunk. If a new chunk gets added, it's like this light mask thing just constantly changes as I fly around. But it's kind of slow because I'm like looping over potentially like, I don't know, maybe 1 million blocks to figure out like if they're in skylight or not. But this is how I can have like the sunlight sort of pierce down in the caves. And if I add like stained glass to the surface of this cave, and maybe like back here, it's like now the cave has blue light, because it like, I don't know, it sees that there's blocks there and does that. But I want the system to work with the water as well, but the problem is the water moves like very fast, and I can't update it frequently enough without just like causing lag spikes on the main thread, because it's all happening on the main thread right now. So moral of the story is I'm going to basically do all this computation on a separate thread, and then I can just sort of update it continuously. And then all the main thread has to do is actually just like draw it, like send it to the graphics card and draw it. So the code that actually does this is in here somewhere. Let's see, where is it? This one. Yeah, so this function is basically what does all of that. So I need to multi-thread this. And I don't know why I'm including string there. So I need to think, how do I want to do this? So we need new thread function. I need to see what I did with the generation actually. I'm just gonna copy some of this. Maybe I should call this global illumination because that's like technically what this is. GI. Oh, that's in the wrong spot. All right, now we have a second thread. So just test that that is working. Yeah, cool, 2 threads. And now I need some sort of buffer that I will write into based on some state. I'm not really using libraries. Most of the engine stuff is just like written from scratch, but I am using a library for like loading image files, like PNGs. I use one for font rasterization. Yeah, I definitely want to do Vulkan. Actually, I'm planning to get rid of OpenGL once I get Vulkan implemented and Metal for Mac, because I don't like OpenGL very much. But yeah, so I'm using obviously the graphics backend libraries, OpenGL and DirectX right now. And then basically the C runtime, I guess, libraries. And that's it. So I'm not using like SDL or anything for my engine. Let's see. So we just need a giant buffer of something. And then a color. Yeah, I'm afraid to start Vulkan. It's like a time issue. I just don't have time to do it, and it's gonna be a large project. Like that's gonna be like several weeks, I think. I just don't have several weeks. I'll get it done eventually though. So how big is this thing? 2, 4, 8 bytes. So oops. 2 megabytes. Okay, that's not bad at all. Okay. So now it's just a matter of basically filling this buffer in the worker thread. And also, let's see. Who is messaging me? I don't want that on. So I need like a hybrid of this system. So I'm just gonna copy it and then if def this out for now. So basically we need to make it so we only run code if the main thread has control of the buffer, which is why we have this mutex. So eventually I want to do this lockless, ideally, but for now we'll just use a mutex. You know, I'll call this can proceed. Is that equal to this? So we unlock the mutex, and then if we can proceed, return. If we cannot proceed, then we will skip. And then we need the opposite on the main thread. Someone is banging upstairs. So in theory, these should just flip-flop back and forth. So like if I print like main thread, and then I also need to lock and unlock this again. Okay, yeah, these are definitely flip-flopping, which is exactly what I wanted. And then if I make like the main thread or the worker thread like sleep artificially for a while, we shouldn't get any lag in the main thread, which is, yeah, exactly what we want. And now, since I think printing to standard out actually does some synchronization mechanism under the hood, which is really annoying, I'm going to just assert that some state is true. Well, actually, I'm just gonna trust that this works, 'cause why wouldn't it? Famous last words. So we don't need this. And yeah, I guess I'm removing the concept of update strips as well. This is tough. This is tough. Okay. So first we need to replace these calls. Where do they draw a rectangle? So we need like a lambda or something for this. So I'm just gonna make one. Batch submit, I will call it. Takes in x, y, length, and color. And then it just writes to the buffer at the current position equals right. All right, and then writing from this batch is a matter of where do I have this function? So actually, yeah, that's fine. Okay, and then, so that should work in theory. And then last thing I need to do is basically just get rid of this update strip thing. Or not get rid of it, I just need to refactor it. Yeah, the way mine works is I basically pass in the operating system as like an argument to the build tool, and then that sets some defines, which is used by everything else to know like what platform it's running on. So like down here at the bottom, so I have the Visual Studio Code plugin that I wrote, but this thing, all this does, it just generates like a command, like it generates a command for this build.bat file, wherever this is. I don't remember where it is in here. Oh, it's up here. Yeah, it generates a command like this, and it passes in the, I guess the compiler should be using. And then if you don't pass this in, it tries to like deduce which platform you're on based on some other stuff. And that's worked good enough for me so far. But then I also have like a JSON file, like this configs thing, where it's like I can create these little custom configurations, like debug should run these compiler flags, like debug with the address sanitizer, like adds additional flags. So I have like a hybrid thing where it's like JSON driven, but also just command line arguments. Let's see. I'm trying to think. This is tough. So for each chunk, volume count. I'll get around to it soon. I'll try. So the chunk, and then if chunk dot state so we need to find this is tough. Let's see. So I'm basically like calculating a set of vertical lines for the world to simulate over, or for the light to simulate over. So I need to loop through all the chunks that are being simulated and then basically just add to this list of update strips. So let's see. X, Y, wait, what did I mess up? Oh, these are not U32s. Okay, that's a great sign that kind of just immediately worked, I think. It looks like nothing changed, but I'm using the new code path now, and I'm like still seeing the behavior I expect. I'm surprised that worked so easily. I'm probably pegging a thread right now, though. If I look at my cores, I'm probably pegging one of these. Where's the performance tab? I thought there was like a more detailed. Breakdown. What's going on? Whatever. Yeah, so in theory, I could make it read the water data now, and it'll just like update sort of in real time with the water, is the theory. So I can come in here and add like a check here somewhere. Yeah, logical. Yeah, that's what I'm after. Yeah, logical processors. Yeah. Oh shoot. I guarantee I'm just pegging a thread in the background. Which one? One of them should be pegged. This one? 13? It's looking like 13's at 100%. Yeah. So let's fix that. We can just like sleep, because I bet this takes like microseconds. Like how long does this actually take? Let's time this. Timer. Just print out every time this finishes. Oh, it's going so fast. Maybe my timer isn't thread safe. Or it doesn't work on a thread. Let me see. That's right. Yeah, it doesn't work on a thread. Let's see. Actually, that's pretty bad. $16 milliseconds, that's not very good. What is it with optimizations on? 2, 3. Yeah, okay, well, I'll optimize that later. I'll add like a fixed time step or something. Oh, now it's 12. Interesting. Okay, so let's get the, let's make it interact with the water now. Yeah, it should be 03. I believe it is. Let me check. Configs. I can just check what it built as. Oh, that was the last build, the debug build. OX. Is that 03? Was that an LLVM? Yeah, 03. Which is the best it's gonna be. I think 13 milliseconds is a little long though. It should be a lot faster than that, actually, because it's really not doing that much. It's like 13 milliseconds. I don't know. It's a lot. That's a later project. Let's just get the features working, and then I'll think about how to make it faster. So where's my little function? It's up here somewhere. So what I need to do, oh, where is it? Thread. Collapsed it. So I need to like break this loop early if we detect that we are in any liquid at all. I'll just do it for water for now though. So if we've entered water, then we're no longer in direct sunlight anymore. So surface is equal to y, and then we'll break the loop. And pretty much impossible to tell if that's working, actually. So we also need to do some stuff here. Yeah, hard to tell if that's doing anything. Doesn't look like it's doing anything though, but at the same time, let me instead change the color to red if we are in liquid. That'll be an easy test. Okay, I definitely see red liquid. But interestingly, it stops after a while. It's like the world height is not correct. It's not getting like the surface height correctly. Yeah, and adding that also made the time take even longer. I think I can optimize that though, because 8 milliseconds is a lot for calculating light. 20 frames. Gotta start somewhere, right? Okay, why does this not work like I expect? What happened? Oh yeah, const. Okay, so that does work. It's like respecting the fluid, which is what I expect. Like I expect to see the green on the fluid. Now I'm curious why this didn't work then. It's greater than 1. Transparency. Like, let's see. So the sunlight decays by that factor. So maybe this shouldn't be constant right now. Yeah, there we go. Kind of. It's a bit extreme. It doesn't decay like I thought it was going to. That's not correct, actually. So what's off is my decay factor, actually. Where is this? So maybe it decays, it should like decay twice as fast in it's an extension I actually wrote myself for the engine. It's in the GitHub, in the description. It's like in the .manta thing here. It's just a few little widgets that like generate commands for me. Okay, it's working, but it looks kind of weird. It's like you get these weird striations in the light. And let me see if I can fix that. I can actually use this one. It should in theory be faster too, I think. I'm not sure if I like this effect. Maybe I just have to get used to it. It's kind of cool. You can see like the waves creating shadows. It's like a shimmer effect maybe in the water. I guess it would look better if once the water is more than just a solid color too. But it's like overly dark down here. I'm not sure. I think there's like just a bug maybe. Maybe I can make it a function of the depth perhaps. So like if I clamp this potentially. So like, oh yeah, that looks a lot better. It's like smooth now. Or smoother, I guess. Well, it still looks a little odd. I think there's more I can do though. Oh, and this is broken. Okay, we have some, yeah, we definitely have some issues. Yeah, shaders are, they're kind of interesting because they're like as simple or complex as you make them. Because you kind of have like a very rudimentary set of tools available to you in a shader. Like the shader languages are just simple, like simpler languages than like CPU stuff. But like that actually ends up making a lot of things harder because you have to like think about problems in a more fundamental way, I guess. Yeah, like this looks really odd. Why is it making that shape? It looks so odd. How long is this taking now? 5 milliseconds. Not ideal. What is this upset about? Can't be defined, return type alone. I don't believe it. Oh, it doesn't know what that is. And I guess the other thing I can do to this is I can make the water actually tint the light slightly. Yeah, it's kind of a crazy effect. Obviously the blue is a little bit too blue, but I think that looks better than just changing the brightness. But now it's like actually just black, which is odd. Let me find a better blue color as well. Let's see. Get the old color picker up here. Where'd it go? It's good, like water blue color. It's kind of what I'm doing, basically. Terraria 2. Yeah, it does have terrible luminance. So let's give a bit of a brighter blue. What's 100 divided by 255? 0.392. That's pretty cool, actually. Obviously the blue is like intensely blue, but it's cool how the water just tints the light. And like in theory, what I could do is I could have, well, not in theory, I'm just gonna test it, see if it works. So if I make like a little tunnel here, and then I use glass, and I add some water, let's block off this cave, this light. Okay, I have these weird chunk lines drawing, which kind of ruin the aesthetic, but you get the blue light from the water, but too intensely blue. Let's add some more, I don't know, add some more color to it. Maybe I should change the lerp instead. Yeah, like that looks a bit better. It's a bit odd because this is like almost, at least to my eye, this almost looks a little green. I don't know if that's just my eyes bugging out, but. Yeah, something odd's happening. There's like red appearing in here too. So yeah, maybe the effect should be just really faint. I guess I'm not lerping hues, I'm lerping the RGB values, which could be part of the issue too. Am I using the clamped version of this? There are a few ones out there. It's there are many ways to do it, I think. So like there's some good ones out there for like particle-based fluids. Like let me see if I can link one that I was watching that was pretty good. Here, 1 second. That one's a pretty good one for like particle based. Mine doesn't actually use particles though. So mine's implemented in a different way. And there wasn't a good video tutorial for like the way I did it, I think. At least nothing I saw. There might be something out there. It's just hard to find. I don't know how much light the liquid should block. It's like I'm just gonna be playing with values for a while until I find something that looks good. Like blocking half the light looks maybe okay. It's kind of cool. You can like see the turbulence within the light values. But now we kind of lost some of that ocean color. That's cool. It's like a nautical blue. I think it'd be better if I did the tinting in the shader though. Let's see. See if this works at all. Alright, so that clearly did not work. Well, it wants to work, but not quite. Why not? Yeah, it doesn't work for direct sunlight, apparently. Super blue. I mean, it's cool. It's not quite what I'm after. Let's see. So maybe I have to tint prior to propagating the light. Make most sense. Maybe. No, doesn't make any difference at all. looks pretty cool actually. The white light's underwater now. All right, I think I'm gonna end the stream here. I'm getting very hungry. Seems to always happen. And I fixed the chunk stuff, which is the main goal. Not too happy with the lighting though. Something about it doesn't look good to me. I don't like these weird vertical lines. So I'm gonna have to think about how to fix that. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll stream again soon. Yeah, see you guys.